friends. Today I'm going to make a brief history of adventure-based education. It can be traced back to the early 1900s. It began with the grandfathers of this style of teaching, Kurt Hahn and Paul Petzl. Kurt Hahn was born in 1886 to a Jewish family in Germany and had a passion for English culture, philosophy, and education. He's known mainly for creating Salem Boarding School, Gordonstown Boarding School, Outward Bound School, and the County Badge Scheme, known better as the Duke of Edinburgh Award. He started out as headmaster of Salem in 1920 and led that school for 13 years, guiding by 7 principles. Give children an opportunity for self-discovery, have children meet triumph and defeat, give children the opportunity for self-effacement in the common cause, provide periods of silence, train the imagination, make games important but not predominant, and free the sons of the wealthy and powerful from enervating the sense of privilege. The principles were based on beliefs of those he studied. The most notable person he studied was Sir Robert Baden-Powell, known best for creating the Scout movement back in 1907 when he first took 22 boys to an experimental camp on Brownsea Island. Following Hahn's exportation from Germany in 1933 due to political conflict, he was forced to start over and did so quickly by opening Gordonstown Boarding School in Morayshire, Scotland in 1934. The third student to ever attend Gordonstown was Prince Philip, but Gordonstown was forced to close in only 1940 due to the war on Germany. However, he did continue furthering adventure education as he was approached by one of the owners of a shipping company with a request to start a training program to increase the preparedness of his sailors. The man that approached him was Lawrence Holt, the father of one of Hahn's former pupils at Gordonstown and the co-owner of Blue Funnel Shipping. He knew his commercial fleet was under stress from the German U-boat blockades, and so he approached Hahn for help in 1941. The two quickly opened a program that Holt named Outward Bound, based on the nautical term for ships leaving port. Outward Bound's first program operated October 14, 1941, out of Aberdavi, Wales. Outward Bound was designed to train young sailors for the sea by using the sea, but its effect went past young sailors and drew attention from all sorts of young professionals. As its success grew, it began to expand to other Commonwealth countries, but Hahn still wanted the County Badge Scheme to mean something. Some years later, that dream came true. In 1956, aided by Sir John Hunt and former student Prince Philip, his badge scheme was endorsed by the royal family and became known as the Duke of Edinburgh Award, which included all the previous components: service, skills, physical recreation, expeditions, and residential service. The next big growth for adventure-based education came in 1962 when Outward Bound crossed into America. A former teacher at Gordonstown and a man who was present at the opening of Outward Bound, Josh Miner, made the big move to the U.S. with the help from private school teachers. He managed to open an Outward Bound in Colorado. This led to other Outward Bounds opening up across the Americas, including one in Canada in 1969. We have to take a quick step back, because this is where Paul Petzl really joins the conversation. Petzl was born to a poor family in 1908 and ended up on his own in his teenage years. He then found himself climbing the Grand Teton in Wyoming at only 16 and guiding mountain climbs for years to come. Eventually, he joined the first American climb of K2 and developed an understanding for how important common goals, effective leadership, and good group behavior are. Fast forward all the way to 1961, he opened a climbing school in Lander, Wyoming. But the next year, hears about the Colorado Outward Bound School from an old buddy that was an instructor at Outward Bound. So in 1963, Petzl finds himself working for Outward Bound. And that didn't take him long to realize that his fellow instructors were underqualified, and so he wiggled his way into teaching a 10-day training program the next season, but still felt it wasn't enough, and proposed opening an Outward Bound in Wyoming to better train the staff in leadership skills. His proposal got denied by Outward Bound, but not discouraged, he left Outward Bound behind him and went to open a school anyway. In 1965, Petzl opened the National Outdoor Leadership School. The National Outdoor Leadership School took on 43 students the inaugural year and put them through a 4-week program that included traveling in small groups with instructors and the requirement of each student leading at least one day. With the school established, Paul started teaching some new environmental practices that included camping away from water, washing dishes away from water, and either burning or carrying out trash. He brought about the beginnings of Leave No Trace camping. Following the success of both schools in 1971, former Outward Bound instructor and son of the founder of the Minnesota Outward Bound School, Jerry Pye, created a curriculum for public schools to use based on Outward Bound. The curriculum was called Project Adventure and used artificial adventure environments such as challenge courses and artificial rock climbing walls. The Project Adventure curriculum was so successful that 10 years later it changed from just a public school curriculum to an entire company. This change was led by Dick Prouty and Carl Ronk in 1981, creating Project Adventure Inc., which is still promoting adventure-based curriculum in schools to this day. Another thing that was inspired by Outward Bound's curriculum was the Association of Experiential Education, a conference first held in Toronto in 1977 that followed only 2 other North American conferences on outdoor pursuits that were put on by university professors and Outward Bound staff. Jumping up to 1979, inspired by the Duke of Edinburgh Award, the Carter administration created the Congressional Award, which follows 4 of Hand's philosophies: volunteer public service, personal development, physical fitness, and expedition/exploration. To cap off today's journey, we have a few authors and well-established folks that promoted experiential learning. First is John Dewey, who was born in 1859 and died in 1952. He was one of the best writers and philosophers of his time and believed firmly in experience as education. One of his last books was even called Experience and Education. Second, we have Eleanor Duckworth, who was born in 1935, who also has a few books out, most notably The Having of Wonderful Ideas, and she's been promoting the teaching/learning philosophies of Jean Piaget, which in essence is letting students reach their own conclusions and findings by research and critical thinking. The last name I'd like to leave you with is David Kolb. He was born in 1939 and published the Experiential Learning Cycle in 1984, and like Eleanor Duckworth, has been promoting learning through one's own experiences for his entire life. And there we have it, a brief history of adventure-based education. Thanks for tuning in, and have a good one.